Hello everyone and welcome to Inside the Quality Awards. My name is Ralph Peterson, and in this video we are going to go over question P1B3 of the Silver Quality Award. Now sharpen your pencils, ladies and gentlemen, because P1B3 can be a little bit of a bear to get through, but I promise I'm going to break it down so it's real simple, basic. You can handle it. Trust me. This is from the bronze application, so you can pull out your bronze application. It is going to be relevant here. Grab your bronze, grab your silver, grab your pen. Let's go. All right, here we go. P1B3, suppliers, partners, and collaborators. I know this looks like it is a beast of a question because quite honestly, it's a little bit of a beast of a question. True story, yo. All right, so there are four. We're going to keep it simple here. There are four what questions. If we wanted to dig deep, we could probably find 8 or 9 what questions here, but we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it simple. I'm going to make this real easy for you. As you can notice, this is right from the bronze. So again, the first part of the question and the last part of the question, you've already written in the bronze. So you might be able to bring some of that over here to the silver application. And in fact, when you look at your bronze application question, which was what are your key suppliers of goods and services and what are their key requirements? And then you look at all of this question and you're like, I wish I could turn back time. I wish. No, nobody, just me. No Cher fans in the room? Okay, well. Oh, Cher, I wish, when I look at this question, it goes like, why did I start doing the silver? I thought bronze was hard. Holy moly. Okay. So what are your key, means most important. Again, most important, 1 to 5. 1 to 5. 3 is probably a sweet spot. I don't know, but, key means 1 to 5. Types of suppliers, partners, and collaborators. Couple of things here. Number one, the question is about the types of suppliers, partners, and collaborators, not the companies. So we're not asking you who, right? This is not a who question, it's a what question. So we're not asking you to name companies, right? Like we're not saying, oh, XYZ service provides our food and XYZ provides our rehab. No. You can add the names. I mean, nobody's going to care, but that's not the question. So just so you know, we're looking for the types of suppliers, the types of partners, and the types of collaborators. Now, and the suppliers is from the bronze. If you remember, there were 2 types of suppliers. Suppliers of goods and the suppliers of services. And I would be, as an examiner, looking for both being represented here. But let's start easy. First, take a piece of paper and divide it into 3 buckets like this. Okay. So the first bucket we're going to answer, let me label this too. This is number 1. This is question number 2. This is question number 3. This is question number 4. Question number 4, just so we're all on the same page, you can likely take it right from your bronze because the requirements of your supply network probably hasn't changed from your bronze application to your silver. So it's not one that we really have to address. I'll address it, but we don't really. You probably can just pull that over. So this is going to be question number 1. This bucket we're going to use to answer question number 2. And this bucket we're going to use to answer question number 3. And if you remember from previous videos, what I like to do is I like to answer each part separately or identify what each part separately is asking so that I can come up with, formulate my response for each one of the questions. Okay. Hopefully you remember and you found that helpful. So the first part here, I'm going to break this up into 3 other buckets. So I'm just going to go like bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3. And this one is going to be my suppliers. This one is going to be my partners. And this one is going to be my collaborators. Collabs. Okay. So the first part of this question is, what are your key types? Key types, not who, to what? Key types of suppliers of goods and services. Let me change the color of my pen here and be a little easier. Goods and services. So if we were to look at, I'm just going to split it in half. So suppliers of goods, it could be like food suppliers, maybe pharmacy, Durable medical equipment, DME, durable medical equipment, maybe linen, utilities, right? Like we're just looking about, and the key word here is key, right? The key word is key. We're looking for just a small list, right? Like XYZ nursing homes, key types of suppliers of goods include food, services, pharmacy, DME equipment, durable medical equipment, linen, utilities, fire safety, whatever. Your key types of suppliers of services might include things like IT or tech services. Maybe you use a staffing agency, so staffing services. Maybe it is transportation services. Maybe it's even, I was going to say pharmacy. I don't mean pharmacy, but like lab services. Maybe medical waste. Department of Transportation. That was one of those little trivia things sometimes in healthcare. Wouldn't it be fun if there was like a trivia night, but it was all like healthcare related, like all the questions were healthcare related? It would be like, who regulates medical waste? And you would probably not guess the Department of Transportation. But the Department of Transportation does regulate medical waste. Or medical waste. All right, you're never going to win trivia knowing that answer, so pull that out of your head. Sorry about that. Now let's go to partners. What is it a partner? Oh, and let me say this too. Let me erase all my chicken scratch so you can see the actual suppliers, partners, and collaborators. It looks like partners and collaborators may be more important than suppliers because suppliers isn't capitalized and partners and collaborators is. That's not the case. The capitalization, if you remember, is an indicator to you that if you want to know what the definition of partners is, it's in the glossary. If you want to know what the definition of collaborators is, it's in the glossary. If you want to know what the definition of suppliers are, you have to go to Google or open a dictionary because it's not going to be in the glossary. That's the only thing about the capitalization. So it's not more important, less important, just so you know. All right, but don't go to the glossary. I'm going to show it to you right now. I'm going to explain to you what a partner is and what a collaborator is. You don't need the glossary. You have me. Come on. All right. A partner is someone who is involved directly in helping you provide the services, i.e. the care of your customers, your residents, your patients, your veterans. They include companies like, or services, I guess would be a better way, like therapy services. And that would include, PT, OT, speech, ST, right? Maybe even your medical director, or your physician group, or, what we have? We have a pharmacy consultant. And they also are a partner of ours. A pharmacy on its own supplies. They are a supplier of ours. They supply, medicine, right? But they also support us with their pharmacy consultant. So they are both a supplier of goods and they are a partner of ours in their consultancy. And we also use behavior health services. You may be even thinking about like your ACO, your managed care organization. Those could also be partners of yours. Now, collaborators, and I'm giving you more than you need, by the way. Like I'm just spitballing, giving you an idea. Collaborators, however, are separate from your organization, but they do provide services that your residents or patients or veterans need. And so you need to collaborate with them. Think home health services, right? Like home health, we don't have a home health, but we collaborate with a home health service, especially for our short-term rehab group, right? Home health. Same with hospice. I know a lot of places have been getting their own hospice centers or started to provide their own hospice internally, like getting a hospice nurse on staff, which is really great. We don't have, so we outsource. We use a hospice service. There's actually a place really close by to our home that has it's only hospice. So it's like a 16-bed hospice unit, and it's all they provide. It's really, really, well, it's nice and heartbreaking at the same time. What about dialysis? Dialysis or specialty services. We're talking like dental, hearing, vision, like those kinds of specialty services. So these are examples. These are all I'm just giving you right here is just examples of different types of suppliers of goods, different types of suppliers of services, different types of partners, and different types of collaborators. All you're going to do is to pick one or two, maybe three. We're not going to make this into a whole thing. One or two of each, maybe three of each. Maybe it's one or two suppliers of goods, one or two suppliers of services, one or two partners, one or two collaborators. Just your most important. That's what the word key is all about. The most important and only the most important. Okay. Now, we'll check this one off. All right, got that one done. We go back to a blue pen. Number 2. The second question is how. I don't want you to overthink number 2 here, by the way, because it's what role. What role do they play? It seems a little hoity-toity to me. What role do they play in producing and delivering not only your key, most important, healthcare services and patient residence and other customer support services? Like, what? Who wrote this sentence? It doesn't even sound like a sentence that makes sense, but it's literally how do they help in both coming up with the services and delivering the services. So producing and delivering the services. The third question, just to put it out here, the third question is very, very significant, very important, and might find its way, hint, hint, further in the application. I said might, probably in 4.2, maybe. And that third question is, what role, this question right here, what role do they play in contributing and implementing innovation in your organization? You saw I put that little meaningful change. Okay. How do they help you get better? How do they help you get better? So first, how do they help you produce and deliver these services? And then how do they help you get better? How do they help you develop new processes or new ideas or get new ideas or get new best practices or share best practices? And best practices, best practices, best practices, 4.2, 4.2. You're going to see that word innovation again. Trust me, friends. All right, let's start on the first one. I'll go back to a red pen just to keep it all even. How do they help? I think the best way for me to explain this is I'm going to take one example and I'll run it through the whole thing. And I'm going to do it actually, let me do it with rehab. I'm going to do it with rehab therapy services, rehab services. So how do they help? That's the question. Here we go. Okay, if we were to take rehab and we go back to the question, what role do they play in producing and delivering? Producing and delivering. Like, how do they help us produce and deliver rehab services? Because I'm talking about the rehab department here. And if we just listed, like they do therapy sessions, they do assessments, right? Like even just saying they do therapy sessions, they do assessments, then we could say that that rehab services or therapy services help us produce and deliver. I'm just using the language of the criteria, which is really helpful. Rehab services through therapy sessions, assessments, 7-day-a-week rehab, right? Like that's really the answer to the question. The next part, because I'm making it really simple. If support services, healthcare services, if it's appropriate to talk about support services, talk about support services. If it's appropriate to talk about healthcare services, talk about healthcare services. If it's appropriate to talk about both, fine. But I think here in rehab, we wouldn't really talk about support services. We would talk about healthcare services. That's why therapy sessions, assessments, 7-day-a-week, healthcare, right? So I'm just going to leave it at that. So now the next question is then, how do they help you get better, or what role do they play in contributing and implementing innovation? This is a very interesting question, and it has some implications depending on which direction you take this answer. So what I'm going to say is, imagine if my therapy session or my therapist, not my therapy session, what if my therapist actually help us, what if they actually help us come up with or design, there's no H in design like fall prevention protocols. And then not only do they help us design fall prevention protocols, but they might also help us establish even some stop and watch programs, like I'm going to say stop and S&W, like stop and watch programs, like assessments to even identify somebody who's coming at a risk. And imagine if then, because we're talking about implementing, not just contributing, but also implementing, but what if our rehab department not only helps us come up with designs, like fall prevention, or helps us design fall prevention protocols, and establish like stop and watch programs or early warning detection systems and that kind of thing. But what if they also provide in-services? In-services to our staff? What if they also are providing the training for our staff? Now you can see rehab, one of our key partners is a rehabilitation services that we outsource. I mean, you could even say to XYZ Therapy Services. And they help us in producing and delivering our healthcare services by providing therapy sessions to our residents, conducting assessments 7 days a week, and they help us. The role they play in contributing and implementing innovation is to help us. For example, they help us design fall prevention protocols, establishing stop and watching programs, early detection systems, and implementation. They in-service our staff, provide in-services education to our staff. That's just one example of how you could do this. We could do this with the medical director. We could do this with pharmacy consulting, behavioral health, right? Like we could take each one of these. That's why it's so important, or there's a couple of things I want to just mention here that's I think is pretty relevant to this. Number one, and you're going to have to get used to this, by the way. If you mention a falls protocol, like they're helping us reduce falls, I, as an examiner, am immediately going to put this on my what we call TOER, stands for Table of Expected Results, and I'm going to expect to see in 7.1 as a result about falls. And of course, I'm looking for falls to be reduced because you have this amazing partner with this relationship, this partner relationship with this rehab company who has been helping you reduce falls. So I'm going to expect to see that result, if that makes sense. What if we said behavioral health was another one? Behavioral health. And well, what do? Behavioral health does assessments and they help us. They come in and they provide services to our residents. And how do they help with implementing or contributing and implementing innovation? Well, they come in and they have all these new fancy protocols and strategies that they use, and then they showed it to us and they taught us how early deflection warning signs or how to de-escalate situations, and so they're providing de-escalation in services and education to our staff, right? Be like, that's amazing. Well, in section 7, I'd be going like, oh, I'm going to be looking for behavioral health, and I'm going to be looking for it in 7.1 because it's a clinical, and it might be showing like the number of incidences, behavioral health incidences or outburst incidences or depressive symptoms. Maybe it's tied to antipsychotic medication use. So I'm going to see antipsychotic med use go down, right? I'm just saying that at the silver level, we just always have to be cognizant that anytime we're mentioning something that is measurable and important, like falls, like behavioral health, like antipsychotics or anything like that, the examiner, we're just trained to go like, oh, throw that on my TOER. I better see that result later on in the application. Now, hopefully this made all the sense in the world to you. Finally, this last question here. This last question, again, you can probably pull it right from your bronze application, but just in case you need a refresher, all we're asking for is for you to tell us what your supply, what you require your suppliers, your vendors, if they want to work for you, these are the rules. These are what we require. We require communication. We require twice a week delivery. We require a monthly report. We require, competitive pricing. We require you to be able to solve the problem or to staff the building or to provide the service. We require, right? Like, what are your actual requirements? Now, the other thing that I just want to add here is, I've said it before. Let me pull this down because you don't need this up anymore. But I've said this before about the bronze. If I haven't said it here at the silver level, let me just, if you weren't with me on the bronze, let me just say this. The bronze application or the organizational profile that we're creating right here, the organizational profile could be, if you wanted it to be, this could be an amazing onboarding tool for your management team. This document, this org profile document that you're creating right now, the bronze document that you already created in and of itself, is an amazing onboarding tool for a manager because you're telling the manager everything they need to know, to include like, hey, these are our key suppliers of goods and services. These are our key partners and collaborators. And by the way, this is why we partner with them. This is why we collaborate with them. This is why these guys are our suppliers. This is why these are our vendors, because they provide these types of services. And we can lean on them for this or for that. And this is what we clearly expect from them. I mean, this is really, really important, really, really helpful stuff that could really, really impact and help a manager, a frontline manager. So I would invite you to consider, if you hadn't already, taking this org profile, especially when you're done with it at the silver level. Once you're finished with this silver level org profile, and maybe after you've finished the whole silver application. So maybe it's after we've applied for the whole application. Let's not do too much. But I would invite you to consider having somebody go through and brush your org profile application up, that section of the application up, put your logo on it, and make it part of an in-service, an onboarding in-service for all of your managers. Give them the tools they need to be successful. What your mission is, what your vision is, what your values are, what your staffing looks like, what they want, what your staffing levels are, who your actual customers are, what they want. How do we know that's what they want? Like, the information we're deriving out of this silver application is one of the best tools I've ever seen used to onboard new managers. Just a thought for you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please, again, put the little thumbs up. Please give me a like and follow, subscribe, share with your friends and colleagues again. And If you would like any clarification, if you're like, you know what, I don't want to hire you, but I'd like you to clarify something, shoot me an email, ralph@ralphpeterson.com. I'll be happy to redo a video if it's not making sense. And if you are looking for a consultant, I know a guy. You're going to love him. I do. Ralph@ralphpeterson.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.